X-Files Rewatch Podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
And do you have any news for them?
I do not, but you've just got out your phone, so do you have news?
Well, it could just be that I am looking up the synopsis for this episode. But no, actually, I did see something came up, weirdly, which was on Comic Book Review, or CBR.com.
Okay.
And this was posted 2 days ago and said, 27 years ago, this record-breaking X-Files episode kicked off a controversial character arc.
Okay, which one?
Leonard Betts.
What's controversial about... Oh, Scully's cancer.
Scully's cancer. Because
Okay.
it all starts from... Theoretically, it should have started with the MUFON stuff, but Leonard Betts was the first cue it's actually happened.
You have something I need.
Yeah. And there's a whole thing about gore, and of course it was a Vince Gilligan episode. How did we forget that?
Yeah, it was Vince Gilligan.
Feels very Vince Gilligan.
Mm.
It's still in the news, somehow.
That's neat.
But I don't think we've got anything else further than that. Nothing else is springing to mind.
No, I haven't had any gossip this week.
A shame.
But of course, if you do have anything that you'd like us to promote, we do have a Things Are Getting Strange Twitter is usually the best way to get us. It's at GetStrange42, and do let me know if you've got any X-Files news you want us to share.
Indeed, anything gratefully received. For now, though, shall we dance on someone's grave? Maybe a bit more.
Literally?
We begin with, of course, that Mulder is dead.
Hooray!
So this is Deadalive. Directed by Tony Warmby, who I don't think we've had on the series before. Written by Chris Carter. And Frank Spotnitz. First broadcast on the 1st of April 2001. So guest stars... Richard McGonagall plays Dr. Francis Orovitz. So I thought this was going to be a very simple one because, look down his filmography and it's a case of, okay, there's a few things I know him for, and then to kind of peter out into TV stuff. So you start with things like The Man with One Red Shoe.
Okay.
Howard the Duck.
Fair enough.
Inner Space. He played a police officer in both of these. Cheers. Star Trek Next Generation and Voyager. Seinfeld. And Third Rock from the Sun. Then we hit the bit where it gets into a slightly... He has more of a career than I would have thought. So, are you familiar with Ben 10? I am very vaguely familiar with Ben 10.
I've heard of it. It's a cartoon.
That's right. He does a whole bunch of voices in that, and every media incarnation of it.
Oh, okay.
Tiny Toon Adventures.
Who did he voice?
The narrator.
Oh, okay.
Duck Dodgers, which was the TV version of the old cartoon. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Did he voice anyone?
Bato, who I do not remember who that is.
No, I can't think.
Metal Gear Solid 3, and you'll never guess.
Revolver Ocelot.
Good guess, but no, because that's Cam
Clark.
Yeah, whoever did Weirdo in Grandia 2.
Okay.
Lyndon B. Johnson.
Fair enough.
No More Heroes.
Okay.
Dragon Age Origins.
Oh no.
Oh no. But yeah, you wouldn't think that in a million years. The other one is not so much someone we've seen in anything, but I sort of looked at the Wikipedia article and said, okay, I need to say this one. So, Larry Rippenkroger is the first deckhand on the boat.
Fair enough.
He was brutal assistant double for Live Free or Die Hard.
Ah.
He was seriously injured on set.
Oh, that's sad.
Basically, Willis stopped up for treatment and everything, but he completely destroyed his face doing a stunt gone wrong.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, really nasty. But that wasn't actually the reason why I was going to bring this up, because that was after reading the article a bit further, because top of the thing, it's stunt double and jet ski champion.
Oh, wow.
Somehow, jet skis keep coming back as well.
Is he as good as Cancer Man, though?
It doesn't say, sadly.
So, have you got a synopsis for Deadalive?
I do. 3 months after Mulder's funeral, attended to by Margaret Scully, the lone gunman, Scully, Skinner, and possibly Doggett, I can't remember. Doggett is offered a transfer away from the X-Files. He realises that if he leaves, the office will be closed, as Scully will soon go on maternity leave. Meanwhile, a fishing trawler finds a decomposing body of Billy Miles, an alien abductee who's taken at the same time as Mulder. When Miles revives on the autopsy table, Skinner, despite Doggett's objections, orders that Mulder's body be exhumed and brought to a hospital, fearing that he may have been buried alive. When the casket is opened, a decomposing Mulder, contrary to all scientific expectations, shows weak vital signs. Meanwhile, Scully notices that Miles, now on life support, has 2 heartbeats. Deputy Director Alvin Curtin successfully tries to convince Doggett to stop investigating Mulder's apparent death. A short while later, as Skinner walks down a hallway, Alex Krycek activates nanobots that had previously been placed in Skinner's bloodstream as blackmail. In an elevator, Krycek reveals himself to a pained Skinner and explains that he has a vaccine that could save Mulder's life. However, he will only give it to Skinner if he can ensure that Scully does not give birth to her baby for reasons that he does not disclose. Later, alone in his hospital bed, Miles regains consciousness and takes a shower. While doing so, his decaying flesh falls away, revealing a healthy body beneath. Miles tells Scully and Doggett that the aliens who abducted him are trying to save humanity. Scully, however, receives a lab report which reveals that Miles' DNA has substantially changed. He is now a new being. Skinner later tells Scully there is a cure for Mulder's disease, but does not explain Krycek's demands. From her medical findings, Scully discovers an alien virus is keeping the abductees alive long enough to cause a radical genetic transformation, similar to the one that Miles experienced. After Scully tells Doggett about the transformation, he visits Absalom, who believes that the abductees are being resurrected into aliens who will eventually conquer Earth. Skinner, torn by his decision, pulls Mulder off life support so that Krycek does not get his way. Doggett, however, catches Skinner in his attempt. Skinner explains Krycek's demands, but Doggett argues that both options are unreasonable because either Scully's child will die or Mulder will succumb to the virus. Doggett tries to locate Krycek in the parking lot of the FBI headquarters, but Krycek nearly runs him down with a car and destroys the vaccine before escaping. Dejected, Doggett returns to the hospital and tells Skinner he was right not to trust Krycek. Doggett finds Scully preparing Mulder for the now-destroyed vaccine, and she tells Doggett that keeping Mulder on life support was hastening the virus, and that Skinner effectively saved Mulder's life by pulling him off of it. She states that she will be able to use a combination of antiviral drugs to kill the virus if they can get him and his temperature to stabilize. Later, Scully sits by Mulder's bedside when he regains consciousness. He stares blankly at Scully and asks, "Who are you?" At first, Scully thinks Mulder does not remember her. However, she quickly realizes that he is actually playing a practical joke. They laugh, and Mulder asks, "Did anybody miss me?" Scully responds with tears. Later at the FBI, Kirsch expresses his disappointment that Doggett did not take his advice to abandon Mulder's case and rescinds his offer to promote him. Doggett indicates that he will continue to work on the X-Files with Mulder and Scully.
Thank you.
I don't know quite what to put it down to, but this feels like an episode that someone wrote themselves into a corner with and didn't revise the episode to not paint themselves into a corner.
Go on, elaborate.
It's the vaccine just gets to me. There were multiple stages to the vaccine where I have problems with. It's like, it's nice to see Krycek again. It's been a while. And we've got continuity cut with the nanobots are still in Skinner, and he can still use them. Not sure why Krycek didn't take revenge for Skinner not doing what he wanted.
But the vaccine, this is purity control again.
We think.
We're pretty sure we brought back purity control here. And at the same time now, what is it that purity control is meant to actually do?
Oh, who knows? It's the MacGuffin for the week. To be fair, we should start thinking of the vaccine as just a MacGuffin. It functions as a literal film MacGuffin.
But it's even further from a vaccine than it's ever been for. It's just a panacea.
Yes. Well, that's been the problem ever since they introduced it like this. It's like Fight the Future, giving it to Scully. That's cured her. It's like, you need to give it to her before she got infected. That's vaccines.
And we've also spoken about its evolution from being able to save us from an alien virus to being able to prevent you from being possessed by the black oil.
Yeah, and now whatever's happening to Billy Miles and could have happened to Mulder. But beside that point, I'm going to go with, okay, Krycek has shown up with the cure. I would completely buy that Krycek does have this vial.
Yeah.
We don't know what he's been doing since he pushed Cancerman down the stairs. This is the first we've seen him since then, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Which led to the tangent thought while we were watching it of, no one in the cast knows that Cancerman is dead, do they?
No, not that I'm aware.
No. So quite why no one's expecting him to just suddenly pop up and sort of do something, but I digress. So I can buy that Krycek has the vaccine, and I can buy the vaccine being what cures Mulder of whatever the aliens have done to him.
Mm.
As opposed to whatever's happened to Billy Mile, though it doesn't seem like a downside at this point, but we've got some episodes to go.
You do have the worrying Billy Miles thing of the fact that he's changed his aliens are bad tune to the aliens are here to save us, which is a bit concerning.
A little bit concerning, and also the double heartbeat thing, but we don't know what any of this means yet.
No.
So where I sort of get really hung up on the vaccine, though, is Skinner has been offered this deal. And there are a load of question marks, and that Skinner doesn't push back on or make anyone aware of the whole, this will cost you Scully's baby, which is a whole new thing we haven't had expressed to us before.
And there's still no explanation now.
Krycek destroys the vaccine, which is, okay, he's a villain. That's what villains do. It's the fact that Scully then says, despite the fact she's waiting for Doggett to deliver the vaccine to her, it's, if we stabilize Mulder's temperature, he'll be fine. Skinner did the right thing by pulling the life support off of him, and we can use ordinary antivirals to cure Mulder. It's... What? But it's an alien virus, Scully. You're not meant to be able to deal with these things. They're meant to be terrible. I know that Colony and Endgame had the whole thing, we have to keep them cold to sort of cure them, but is this based on that? Is this based on something else? That's really anticlimactic.
Yeah.
I think it's really bad. I will say, though, that we spent about half this episode saying, Doggett should go and punch Krycek in the face, and I was quite pleased when Doggett actually did punch Krycek in the face. At the same time, it was a bit weird with Skinner sort of tells Doggett about the exchange, and then Doggett goes looking for Krycek, and it's, do you know what Krycek looks like? Have you seen Krycek before?
Good point, actually.
It's sort of, you wander around a parking lot. Okay, sure, he's the only guy lurking in there in a leather jacket, but really, you kind of looked out that you found Krycek.
It's the guy lurking there in the leather jacket that immediately tried to run him down in a car, to be fair.
Oh, yeah. It just feels, it's an odd one that, such an old element of the X-Files meets the new element of the X-Files, and they're not introduced. I mean, we're going to get into this with 3 words, with how Doggett and Mulder meet, which is also kind of not graceful. Is there a body horror aspect to this, would you say? I mean, there is a body horror aspect.
There is absolutely a body horror aspect.
Absolutely body horror, but I don't think the episode grapples with the body horror. Well, it does for Billy Miles. But it does so in the whole, he sheds his skin and becomes a new person.
Yeah, and he sheds his skin quite graphically as well.
Yeah.
I did read a kind of vague interview with the person who did the special effects for this, and those special effects are quite clever. Essentially, they've made this red mush largely out of strawberry jam and covered it with a kind of rubbery skin substitute.
Okay.
That's designed so, you run water under it and it just sloughs off. But when he was creating this, he kept raising the question of, is the station actually going to air this? Because this is not going to be PG-rated kind of gore. This is going to look horrendous. And it does. It's actually quite convincing.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Does mean you should reference your favourite Gravity Falls moment. What's that on your face?
Jam.
And Alex Hurst actually has said that, yes, it is jam, because in retrospect, when you get to the episode, of course it can't be blood because they're gnomes. And they actually were eating jam or something earlier. Anyway, the body horror aspect I was actually trying to get at, because there is definitely some body horror for Billy Miles, is Mulder. Fair enough, he's been buried alive, but with some medical technicalities which feel off. I mean, for one thing, you get these things with the buried alive things isn't it traditional these days to use formaldehyde and sort of preserve the body and not just put them in a box in the ground?
You've hit on why Paula Vitaris doesn't like this episode.
But I wouldn't have thought there are so many reasons not like this episode, but I would not have thought inaccurate funerary practices would be it, but I can see that. Actually,
the episode largely, and 3 words for that matter, got kind of mixed to positive reviews.
Oh, I can imagine.
But Paula Vitaris hated both of them.
Right on.
But her big complaint about this one was the scientific accuracy, or lack thereof. Particularly in the sense of Mulder. Stage 1 was Mulder apparently was not autopsied or preserved in any way. And apparently nobody's had more of a cursory look than him. And on top of that, he, despite being alive, has survived 3 months inside a coffin with no food or water.
Or air?
Yeah, or air for that matter.
Yeah.
But her other big problem is you have a story where somebody has been brutally tortured and buried alive for 3 months. And he's fine, he got better.
Yeah.
There's no kind of deep look into the psychological impact that would have on him.
No comeuppance.
And there's not even really a physical element to this because, you would have thought that his muscles would have atrophied beyond the mild decomposition he seems to have. He shouldn't be able to walk or anything.
No, and that's coming into where I was going with it originally, is they pull open Mulder's casket. He's visibly decomposing, and he gets better from this. It's like, once you start to decompose, I'm pretty sure that's irreversible. No matter if you come back to life again.
For Billy Miles, and they had to comment on the fact that they wanted him to look like somebody who'd been found in the water for months. Yeah. And of course they could not show this on television, so it's a very mild representation. But you still get that idea of the kind of soft, bloated corpse when they're doing the autopsy on him.
Well, I mean, it keeps coming up of late for other reasons, but I'll go Late Mungo again. The state of her body when they bring out the start of that film.
Oh, Jesus, Late Mungo.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's more accurate.
Yeah. But again, I can understand why they sort of skirt around it. But yeah, Mulder is starting to decompose. If rot sets in, I think basically you have to cut it out, don't you? I mean, at best, if you want to treat it. Generally, you're not meant to be like that if you're alive.
I also have some pause here on the more theological aspects of the episode. Because we said the theme of the season is death and rebirth.
Yeah.
And we're taking this in a biblical sense, with Mulder taking the Jesus kind of role in this analogy. But Jesus rose on the third day.
Yep.
Mulder's outdone him by lasting 3 months rather than 3 days. So he's like the Uber Jesus in this.
Well, also, isn't an implication in the Bible, though, that Jesus rolled the rock away himself? He got up and got himself out the tomb.
Or something
supernatural did it.
Supernatural has happened, yeah.
Not your boss at the FBI said excavate Mulder's coffin on a really slim pretext.
I love the fact as well that Doggett is portrayed as being kind of irrational in these scenes when he's saying, "What the hell are we doing? The man has been dead for 3 months."
You don't really think you're going to find a living person down there, do you?
And also the fact that even if he was alive at the time we buried him, he's not now.
No.
Do you really want to put Scully through this sort of logic?
It's like, buried alive stories was a thing at a certain point in history, but there's a narrow point where that's actually viable. And they can't survive long underground because you run out of air.
It's a primal fear, and to be fair, it still has precedence in the modern times. There are cases where people have woken up at their funerals and things like that because they've been in such a coma with such low vital signs that they've just been assumed dead.
Yeah.
But more so, you think of it as being the Victorian terror, you know, that period of history where people were buried with bells on their coffin in case they started breathing.
Yeah.
And the Edgar Allan Poe wrote at least 3 stories about people being buried alive.
But 3 months, you don't do that.
No.
That's just insane.
No, this is normally like right after sort of thing.
Yeah. So 2 points that came off of this is you touched on it really well, and the series has lost interest in a few elements that were from last episode. So Theresa, where's Theresa? Who has also gone through this psychological torment and been healed by Jeremiah Smith. What state is she in?
We got to assume that some of those other abductees that had the camera turned on them must have been through this as well.
But they are basically just, for all intents and purposes, dispensed with. We don't care.
We've also kind of ignored Absalom. I always say his name wrong. Absalom?
This is Absalom.
But he pretty much, in a roundabout way in the last episode, said they're coming back as aliens and they're going to take over the world. And we've now literally seen this happen to Billy Miles.
Yeah.
And it's not kind of formed any connection here for people.
No, and I think it's a relevant point for the next episode. We'll get to Absalom, because he's still around. There seems to be a cross wire where someone seems to have forgotten that Jeremiah Smith was a character in the previous episode.
I don't think they even mention him.
They don't. And Absalom seems to be taking the credit for doing it. And it's no, it was the guy from the previous episodes who heals people. You're, as far as we know, a guy who can do nothing. I'm mystified.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that. Billy Miles, though. I'm confused by Billy Miles as well. So, we've got the aliens are, to borrow some phrases we did last time, yeeting people out the back of their UFOs for whatever reason.
I'm so sorry I said that.
But they yeeted at least three people, three people into fields in Montana.
And one into the ocean.
Why did they throw Billy Miles in the ocean?
It could be that they're not really aiming this.
But then why? But they also stealthed when they dropped off Theresa's body. We saw them do that, and also when they did Mulder's body. There seems to be also.
Have you considered they landed on the back of a turtle, put him down there thinking it was an island, and then the turtle went underwater?
Okay, there's that possibility. I would say it's unlikely, but it's a possibility. It's the whole, if you want to sort of, if this is your whole supplantation thing or whatever, you kind of want the people to not be eaten by sharks when you dump them in the ocean.
There's always the chance of them waking up and just punching out the shark.
But as far as we can tell from the process, given we've got Billy Miles and Mulder as examples of this process, well, no, we've got Billy Miles as an example of this process apparently working as intended, and Mulder as one that's been disrupted. is it seems to take about 3 months, and they've got to be basically on the verge of life.
We don't know exactly how this process works, because I'd argue this for Mulder as well. Is if they've buried someone 6+ feet down, how's he getting out of that again?
Yeah, well, it's going to come from the depths of zombie style.
We know that they're kind of being remade into the optimum humans that don't seem to have any kind of physical defects and are perfectly healthy. But at the same time, do you know how much that soil would weigh?
A lot. It's not easy to get up there.
It's, this is why vampires are freakishly strong.
Yeah.
And we buy that as a supernatural thing because they're freakishly strong and can claw their way back out their graves. This isn't something a normal human could physically do.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I've realised is it's a bit like writing the episode, but only referring to the episode, if that makes sense. What I mean is, Scully has that comment of, Skinner does the right thing by pulling Mulder off life support.
Yeah.
And that slows down the progression of the virus.
Which is flipping lucky for Skinner's sake, to be honest.
It is flipping lucky for Skinner's sake, but that means, did the aliens intend people to find the bodies and put them onto life support? Did the aliens intend them to find the bodies and bury them and then let whatever process is just tick by normally? How is this meant to work? Are they meant to be human intervened, or are they meant to just be left where they lay until they sort of turn into new people?
Given they stealth the spaceships, perhaps they're just meant to be left where they drop.
Yeah, but then you'd think you'd stealth down to the ground and not shine lights everywhere.
Mm.
What is going on?
Or if we're going on the basis of what Absalom says is correct and they're being turned into aliens to take over the world, or however he exactly worded it, are they actually expecting to be found and kind of reunited with their families, so they're growing as sleeper agents, essentially?
Well, possibly, but then how did they... Why was Mulder so botched that they thought he was dead and put into a coffin? Is it me, or is this just... Because the thing is that Billy Miles, they think he's dead when they get him, and then he kind of moves on the operating table when they're going to do the autopsy.
To be fair, Jeremiah Smith makes a similar comment where he says that if they're left too long, he can't help them.
Yeah. We don't know what that means.
I guess maybe there's a tick-over point where they do clinically die.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing that would be when Scully sees the double heartbeat thing.
Yeah.
But then it still requires him to be on life support, which is not what Mulder got and what Jeremiah Smith is trying to avoid, and Theresa didn't get.
I'm not sure how an EKG would show up a double heartbeat either.
No.
Because surely they can't be designed with this in mind. No. It's looking for arrhythmia and things like that.
I'm thinking it's written by two people who don't know how a lot of things work, like a lot of the X-Files.
There is no situation where an EKG machine, an ECG machine, would need to pick up on two heartbeats in the same person.
Yeah.
You're never going to have a situation with someone with two hearts.
No. Well, unless you have the doctor in as your frequent patient.
Yeah, I'm sure the people at UNIT who are treating the doctor probably have more high-tech stuff for this.
But I think you made the good point early on, is that Doggett is framed by the episode as being irrational, but to an outside observer and being ruthlessly accurate, is the most sensible person in the proceedings.
I think he's also the most empathic as well, because fair enough, Skinner is absolutely right, and he's done the right thing in digging Mulder up. But all things being equal, how upsetting is this going to be for Scully when they dig up Mulder's corpse?
Yeah, and they do tend to try not let her in, and it's the whole, I don't know what you expect to see, Scully.
But they've also commented, and admittedly it's a throwaway comment because we haven't really seen it, that Scully's pregnancy's been difficult.
Yeah.
So giving someone who's already undergoing a difficult pregnancy, because she's now about 7 months pregnant, I think, big shock by dredging up her lover's corpse, may not be the sensitive thing to do here.
Lover? Their relationship is so vague now.
They snuggle up in bed together.
Yeah, at best. We don't know what's going on between the two of them. Because again, the parentage of Scully's baby is actually in flux. Strangely, I did not remember it being this complicated.
No, but we're on the assumption that it was somehow this IVF with Mulder.
Yeah, despite it failing. And Scully...
That we only know that one round of it failed. It doesn't follow that they didn't continue.
True. And Scully presumably is... Well, no. That's next episode. We'll deal with the pregnancy thing. Because Mulder's top of the credits in this one, and he's barely in it again.
There was a comment from Spotnitz. Apparently, Mulder was only contracted that he'd work certain hours and things like that after his return. And Spotnitz feeling they wasted him when they get him for these hours and all he's doing is lying in a bed. And even, there are certain scenes where they couldn't get Mulder where it is his stunt double wearing a mask.
Yeah, like in the coffin.
But apparently it was so convincing that some people on set didn't realise it was a stunt double wearing a mask. which I guess the prosthetics for his decomposition hid a lot.
Yeah, I can see that working.
Interestingly, I should have noted as well that the funeral was an absurdly expensive scene to film. In part because they wanted it to be realistically Mulder's funeral. The idea of the episode was Spotnitz wanted to do something so shocking at the start of the episode that people would watch the whole thing. And the most shocking thing, of course, they could do was actually have Mulder's funeral for the undeniable fact that Mulder is dead.
Yeah.
They had to make it believable, so it had to be all of Mulder's close confidences, which meant they had to spend a fortune flying people like Sheila Larkin and the Lone Gunman and these people who otherwise don't appear in the episode over for this one scene.
Yeah. But from a storyline purpose, he's got the Lone Gunman, Scully's mother, and Skinner and Scully.
And Doggett. And Kirsch, I think, is there too.
Is Kirsch? Okay.
Yeah.
Not notedly one of Mulder's friends.
But his boss.
But his boss, in a roundabout way, not that he's ever actually been in a position to be his boss. Or not since the brief period. But there's a thing to be made of what has Mulder done to his life in his pursuit of the truth. These are all he's got. The only people who's going to show up to his funeral.
Mm. It was also an expensive scene to film because they had to make the entire place in California look like it was under snow.
It's very convincing.
Apparently in the foreground shots that is actual snow, but the rest has just been painted white in post.
Oh, okay. It was very convincing.
Mm. But that's why the funeral scene is so expensive, the mixture of special effects and having to get these actors in just for one shot.
Yeah. I've just realised Scully thinks Mulder has more friends.
Why?
Field Trip. Where she has a vision of the wake after Mulder's death.
And there's a lot more people there.
There's loads, we've no idea who all these people are. There's a load of people in the apartment. We don't know who they are.
Mm.
A Lone Gunman and Skinner.
True.
She's conjectured Mulder's friends.
Mm.
They don't exist. Wow, that's really kind of sad, isn't it?
But you've always got Frohickey.
You've always got Frohickey. We can get to Lone Gunman next episode as well, given they get a bigger role. There's so much else to this episode because I think it's a lot of build up and then it just kind of deflates when you get to the sort of crux of it because Scully just says, "Yeah, we can fix it. He'll be fine."
I think you've been a tad unfair on the start of the episode, to be fair, because like a lot of the recent episodes, its actual concept does draw you in.
It does. Admittedly, yeah.
When they fish up this guy,
yes.
He's a very bloated corpse that's been in the water for a long time, and he starts to show sign of life on the slab, and then you realise it's Billy Miles.
Yeah.
You've got an interesting sting going into there. What, as I said last time, I despise in writing is bringing a character back from the dead. And we do try to do our fidgy-widginess of why Mulder can come back from the dead, which, as Paul Vitaris rightfully pointed out, is just ridiculous.
Yep.
And full of holes.
Yeah. Billy Miles, I can excuse what they're doing here.
But my problem is that once a character has physically died, and I'm not counting deaths like the Joker where we never find the body and that's how you get around it.
Yeah, that's the guy.
When a character has physically died on screen, and to the degree of we have buried him, they should remain dead because otherwise you lose any credibility in the future. Any deaths, even if we see them now, might not be permanent. And there goes your tension.
I would agree. The start of the episode is shocking. It was not expected. I have a sneaking suspicion, though, that as much as people would have come to watch it for that reveal, I would wonder how obscure his involvement in the rest of the season was. How closely guarded was that secret? Because if people knew who was going to show up in more episodes, it kind of undercuts that tension, doesn't it?
Mm.
And also, he's first on the cast list again, which is just weird.
Yeah, true.
I mean, for one thing, you did actually tell me the other day what the actual dispute was of why he left the X-Files, and I wasn't quite aware of the intricacies of this.
Yeah. And of course, I'm reading this from an article I think I found in the New York Times, so I don't understand all the intricacies myself. But we have alluded for a while that David Duchovny left the series at the end of season 7 due to a contract dispute. Essentially, it's because he was promised a percentage of royalties from the X-Files, particularly from its advertising, that he did not receive the percentage he was said to get. And it gets a bit further under the table because Chris Carter was also implicated in this court case for reportedly kind of hiding this fact from David Duchovny. And there were outside sources at the time, and of course you don't know the entire verity of outside sources, but saying the fact that this kind of massively damaged their working relationships because in his eyes, or rightly so, I don't want to make an assumption, that Chris Carter had come on the side of Fox and not on the side of his long-term co-worker, essentially.
Yeah.
So completely ruining their friendship and leading to this point where David Duchovny basically said he didn't want to have anything to do with the series anymore. He did ultimately get an out-of-court settlement of $20 million.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, as however much that is true, it doesn't... There's two parts to it. Is it won't stick forever because it'll certainly be undone by the time... Not so much by the end of this run, but by the time we get to what I Want to Believe, certainly I think that hatch has been buried.
Mm.
The other way of looking at it, though, is there's no collaboration between the two of them on episodes anymore. I don't think there's any Chris Carter, Dave Duchovny, nothing like Colony again.
No.
I don't think they ever do that ever again.
I also read a comment from David Duchovny somewhere, and I apologise, I can't remember where I got this from, where he cited when he was questioned if he was unhappy that Mulder never comes back full-time to the X-Files, which he doesn't from this point.
Yeah.
He is involved. He's not full-time in there anymore. And he said he thought it was a good thing that Mulder would not come back full-time and that they were focusing on other people, because otherwise the series would kind of stagnate and it wouldn't move on. It'd be in the same position at the end of Series 8 as it was at the end of Series 7.
Yeah. Very telling that was an answer that has to have been given before Season 10.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else for Deadalive, or shall we... Well, actually, we have a game here. It's like, what 3 words do you actually want us to say? I understand you wrote all your notes in the form of 3 words.
I think I've got my synopsis ready, yep.
Okay. So, 3 words. It was directed by Tony Walmsley again, written by Chris Carter and Frank Spotnitz, and first broadcast on the 8th of April 2001. No appreciable guest stars other than more of the people we're familiar with. Lone Gunmen are here, and Kirsch is here. Would you like to tell us what the 3 words are?
Yes, I would.
Starting already.
Man has gloves. Jumps the fence. Stop! Right there! Aliens are invading. He shot himself. Please. The president. Man gives disc. Fight the future. Mulder got better. Pretty damn good. Virus is gone. In perfect health. Like Austin Powers. Missing a Molly. Searching for you. Prayed a lot. Happy for you. Cold and ungrateful. Marion, the librarian. Expand your horizons. The coming apocalypse. Census workers shot. Application is denied. Off the X-Files. Stake through heart. Close the X-Files. Magic bullets fired. Maneuvered like you. Stick with nail. Department of Corrections. Absalom runs away. Longest train ever. Back of neck. You're still you. They'll kill me. One chance here. Spread the word. Invasion has begun. On your knees. Back in office. Visiting my buds. Real big hunch. Overnight sensation. Howard's personal effects. Mulder needs therapy. It's been encrypted. Book Princess Cruise. Absalom is shot. Census Bureau guards. Mulder hates Doggett. Burying the truth. F*** you, Mulder. Frohickey loves you. Protect the files. Let this go. Dodge that bullet. Certain genetic profile. Set you up. Everything's under control. Get out of there! It's a trap! Trust no one. Weird neck bumps.
This synopsis brought to you by Dr. Seuss.
Thank you, I worked hard on it.
Yeah, so if that is gibberish to all of you, basically, person jumps the fence at the White House and has a disc to give to the president and is killed while doing so. Disc labeled Fight the Future. Mulder wants to get back to work, but everyone advises against it. Kirsch is going to turn down his application. Absalom escapes from prison after being shown the report about the census worker's death.
Who's the guy who jumped the fence?
The guy that jumped the fence. Goes to Doggett, checks the back of his neck for reasons that are alluded to at the end of the episode with weird bumps. He and Doggett are going to break into the Census Bureau to access some files.
He takes Doggett hostage.
Yeah, he takes Doggett hostage.
Do you want me to try and summarise this properly?
Let's go. This is fine.
He takes Doggett hostage.
Yeah. Absalom is then shot, so bye-bye to Absalom. Mulder and Doggett's first meeting is not good, because Mulder blames Doggett for Absalom being killed. Doggett then tries to make it up to Mulder and goes to Noel Rohr for information about the census worker and why he was killed. Mulder steals the hard drive out of the census worker's computer. Gets the gunman to have a look at it. They discover its password encrypted, and they don't know what the password is. Doggett provides the password, which is Fight the Future. This then leads Mulder to break into the Census Bureau with the help of the gunman. Doggett comes in after him, realizing that everything's been a setup to get Mulder shot. Mulder and Doggett escape. Then Doggett goes and confronts Noel.
Because he realizes that Noel set them up.
And accuses him of, tries to expose him, and, Skinner is there as a threat. But Noel denies everything, and Doggett walks away, and then we see he's got weird bumps in the back of his neck.
Da-da-da-da.
Da-da-da-da. What the hell is going on in this episode?
I like my synopsis better.
Your synopsis is better. So, the weird one to start with is did you have 2 drafts of a script that you edited halfway through?
Go on, elaborate.
Okay, so Mulder goes and tampers with evidence which Scully keeps insisting has got a risk of imprisonment. We should also note that Mulder has got into this secure evidence room. He's not officially at the Bureau. As far as I'm concerned, he's not employed by the FBI at this point, is he? Because that's the whole point of him applying to Kirsch. So how he got in here, I don't understand.
I imagine Mulder's going through all these problems, though we don't really see them, of somebody who's been legally dead for 3 months.
Yeah, because we talked about this way back in the day, we talked about this for Toombs. And we don't understand how Toombs was hanging on to his apartment, given the time span and everything. And I think there was someone else we were sort of questioning about. Leonard Betts, I think, was how you pick up your life after these things. Or that priest in Signs and Wonders.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, you are sidestepping the complications in the modern world where you can't just turn up to somewhere.
It's even more so in America than it would be in the UK, where you'd have things like your health insurance.
Yeah. You need to explain this gap. Oh, I was legally dead for 3 months.
Yeah.
You, what?
I'd like to see it on a CV as a reason for your break in employment.
Yeah.
Oh, that's when I was legally dead.
Getting past all that, Mulder takes the hard drive out of the computer because it's 10 gigabytes of stuff. In 2001, 10 gigabytes was gigantic. Like, I bought an 8 gigabyte hard disk. This was one of the biggest things I could get a hold of, 6 years ago. That's 8 versus 10 in 2001.
So, you're as always talking to me who computers are magic boxes for.
Yeah.
But I'm going on the basis, what are the likelihoods that even a shadowy government census worker would have a laptop with this power? And it's a laptop, it's not a desktop computer.
It's, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if you could get this, but it'd be a horrendously expensive thing at the time. It wouldn't be terribly fast. You're not going to get hold of it unless you knew exactly what you did it for.
Would it be big as well? I imagine it'd be bulky.
It's just, at that point, hard drives technology had standardized though. So
so hard drives weren't massive. He wouldn't be carrying around his 20 kilo laptop for this.
No, it's like once we get into the 90s, drive sizes start to standardize to the same kind of ones you see at the moment.
Cool.
It's plausible but unlikely he has this at the time. My problem with it is he's got 10 gigabytes of stuff. They go to the Lone Gunman, they look at it and discover it's a directory listing for census records.
Yeah.
It's all password encoded.
Yep.
Doggett gets the password. You can only use the password in the Census Bureau. What is on this drive that's taking up 10 gigabytes?
One of 2 units.
One of 2 units. What is on the hard drive that's taking up 10 gigs? Because a directory listing, however complicated you make it, you're going to struggle to get to that scale.
I imagine that's possibly part of the point of what's stored on this thing.
Yeah, so I thought the drive would be a copy of the census data that they're trying to get into the building to see. That made sense to me. But no, I'm just talking nonsense.
I also noticed when Mulder entered that password on the computer, there was a blank space for an ID number. And when it flashes back, there are asterisks in that field too, so I've no idea where he got that kind of ID number from.
Yeah, that's one of the other kind of oversights of, you know the password, you don't know what the login name is.
Yeah.
That's why they do that, so that if you've got one information, not the other one, you can't get in.
Mm. And of course, the password, as I alluded to in my basically X-Files haiku earlier, is Fight the Future.
Yeah.
The tagline of the X-Files movie.
And a sentence that means nothing to anyone involved in the series. So, the X-Files has been bad with computers before, but this is a level of what's going on. Either he has to be in the room, or it's on the hard drive. You don't give him 10 gigabytes of data, then say, you still need to go over to this other location to get it. And why it looks like an underground car park that just turns into computer labs, I don't quite understand either.
I thought it was quite trendy.
It's very trendy, but can you imagine working there? It's all like the dank hallways and everything, and then into an ultra-modern, ultra-white office with 2 workstations. Only 2 people can work on US census data at the same time.
And like a glass wall to get in.
Yeah. That what the Doggett just shoots his way through. You can kind of see that they're trying to allude to the stuff Jeremiah Smith was doing back in Heron Volk and Thing.
Back when we had the smallpox registry.
Yeah, it's like the smallpox stuff. It's like the stuff they found in Paperclip. It's whatever Jeremiah Smith was arrested doing, when Cancer Man came from and everything.
He was some kind of government agent as well.
I think he was also doing census data.
Oh, was he still a census
I think it
worker?
was census. So this just kind of tie into it. I think the problem is that we do get to see some of it, and then Mulder says, oh, it's a collection of people with genetic markers. Is that? But if you know that, the individual people aren't going to help you. Because the way Absalom phrases it is that this is going to make a big difference. But all you've got is the census people have these specific people picked out. Unless you know what that criteria is, that data helps you. It doesn't help you at all.
Mm.
We can extrapolate on the back of this that these are people who've gone through whatever Billy Miles went through, and possibly what Nora has gone through. We don't know.
We do know, based on what Absalom checks Doggett for,
that,
as Absalom has already alluded to, there are alien sleeper agents among us.
Yeah.
And you can tell by looking at their neck. So we have to therefore assume, I guess, that Noel is the same kind of thing as Billy Miles.
Yeah.
And we just haven't examined Billy Miles closely enough, so we don't know that he's got this kind of ridge down his back.
That's what I was getting to, is that feels like an oversight on the Billy Miles part of it, is that they should have shown that.
You think you would have noticed it? When Scully did the kind of examination of Billy Miles and they said he's basically more human than human.
Yeah.
You think that that kind of deformity would stand out. It's quite distinct.
Yes.
And it doesn't just look, when people are a bit emaciated, you can kind of see their spine. It doesn't look the same as this kind of bony ridge that they have.
Yeah.
It is almost like, little kind of dinosaur bumps down their back.
Yeah. So that's weird. And follow me along with this is, one, why are the aliens being so unsubtle? Because I expect better of you guys. You can usually do implants and stuff, leaving tiny scars at best, and now you're leaving metal bumps in the back of their neck.
We don't know what's causing it. It could literally be their bone structure.
It could be. But then, here's my other point is, 2 points. One is, Deep Throat, way back in season 1, said, they, Mr. Mulder, have been here for a very long time. This is not a revelation. This has been in from the start. The other is, hey, you're sending sleeper agents in to take over Earth. Cool. What were the shapeshifters about then?
This is Plan B.
This is Plan B, but why don't they just deploy more shapeshifters? Who must be easier to train, quicker to deploy, and don't require someone being dead for 3 months. Just saying.
Good point.
Who are already stronger, can recognise that the aliens on site.
We don't know what process these are undergoing. Presumably the most complete one we've seen is Noel Rourke, because we haven't been aware of him being dead for 3 months.
No.
So he's been one of these things for a while.
Yeah.
We don't know how comparatively powerful he is compared to the shapeshifters. He could be 20 times as strong as them.
He could. But what I mean is, this is kind of like, this is Invasion of the Body Snatchers, or that's what it feels like at the moment. And you did Invasion of the Body Snatchers with the shapeshifters, because this was Samantha Mulder's entire thing.
Technically, the pod people replaced people, though. These aren't really replacing them, they're mutating them.
Yeah. Although, with that whole double heartbeat thing, there's a case to be made that the old Billy Miles is gone and the new one has taken his place.
More that he's been possessed.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. But I think my point is, though, that this is an appreciably different to the shapeshifters. And I think they were struggling with a new conspiracy arc. And this is the best they could come up with. So, yeah. The other revelation from this episode is I do remember being frustrated with Doggett at the time. A lot of X-Files fans went through the same thing, and we've also commented a few times that Doggett is a better character than we give him a lot of credit for. And a lot of people give him credit for, and it's actually quite good to see him on rewatch.
I like him.
Yeah. His aversion to the paranormal set aside, because he is straining credibility on that. Mulder's return is such an eye-opener in this episode of, can we get him out the series faster? Because this is infuriating. He is so annoying.
It's the immediate dislike he takes to Doggett. And I can understand him being a bit put out by Doggett when they put a non-believer on the X-Files, in the same way he used to be a bit frosty with Scully.
Yeah, but he wanted her faster than this.
His extreme animosity to Doggett, it's epitomised in the scene in Skinner's office where Doggett has technically met him for the first time. Doggett stands up smiling to shake his hand, and Mulder punches him in the face.
Yeah. And says, you got that guy killed. It's like that, no, unfortunately, Mulder, we saw the scene and Doggett did not get Absalom killed.
Doggett was being held at gunpoint by a man who broke into his house.
Yeah, and was trying desperately to de-escalate the situation.
Of course, in Mulder's eyes, he thinks that Doggett is a plant who's been sent to destroy the X-Files, because Mulder, of course, is incredibly paranoid and therefore believes that Doggett is there to shut it down, and not the fact that Doggett is earnestly trying to keep it open.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that to a point. I would also say, though, that I didn't enjoy Mulder's interactions with any other character in this episode, except maybe Frohike.
The hug's nice.
The hug is nice, but he's being smarmy and sarcastic to Scully, to Skinner, to Doggett. You kind of go, Scully, why did you choose this man to be the father of your child? Because he's a complete asshole.
I feel it's like in a more sensitive series, like say if we did this in Supernatural, or another popular American series at the time like that, we'd have the character behaving like an asshole for an episode, 4 episodes maybe, and then we would address it. There would be development for the character to get better and confront whatever it was that was hurting them.
I'll raise you Buffy.
Yeah.
First episode of season 2, Buffy is being out of sorts. She's being kind of weird and all over the place and does that weird flirty thing with Xander. And basically all her friends call her on it before the end of the episode, and then she smashes the Master's bones to pieces while sobbing.
You have an example with Buffy as well, is there is a season later, and the seasons of Buffy blend into one for me, but Buffy dies in the climax of one season. And they use arcane rituals to bring her back from the dead, so a bit more supernatural yet plausible than what the X-Files does.
Yeah, it's like 7 episodes worth. It's not until post-musical before they get her to actually articulate things.
She eventually breaks down. It's the fact that essentially she was in heaven and they've dragged her back to this and she's having a hard time coping.
Yeah, the musical is the revelation of that, and then they deal with the fallout after that, but it takes them a number of episodes to get there.
But you do go through the whole, yep, here is a character that's notably acting out of sorts, and we've addressed it, and we've kind of resolved it.
Yeah. And we ain't getting that.
Mulder goes through fluctuations depending on his writing of how much of a git he is, but Mulder is insufferable in this episode. And I feel like Paul Vitaris raised in the last one, we could address it in the fact that he's been tortured and he's been clinically dead for 3 months, and that's got to have a toll on you.
Yeah. But that's not how it's coming across.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you could absolutely do this with Mulder and do something and just have a payoff. That's not how he's reacting or how anyone's reacting to him.
It's something we've never been very good at in the X-Files, but we have tried it before, particularly with Scully, because we have addressed in the fact Scully having to have therapy due to being kidnapped in the past.
Yeah.
Her experiences with Dwayne Barry, her experiences with Donnie Faster did have a lasting impact on her that maybe was only a lasting impact for a few episodes, but we tried to address it in a slightly clumsy way.
Yeah. I don't know, it feels like everyone's out of sorts in this one, because there was a moment when I thought Scully was expecting too much of Mulder and she's reacting badly to how flippant he's being, and that's the whole, he's not going to be reacting normally because he's gone through 7 months of torture. But at the same time, Mulder never no one calls him on that behaviour, and then no one calls Scully on it either. And Mulder has this smarmy attitude all the way through. And I'm wondering with that revelation about the whole Chris Carter mess, is he not trying and he's just being, I'm here because I've been paid to be here, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with some of the flippancies as well. It's some of the language Scully uses. I think that if I was addressing someone who was in Mulder's situation, I wouldn't use it. It's like the Molly I mentioned in my 3 words. That's Mulder's fish. One of his fish is a Molly who has died. And it's the first thing he comments on when he's in the apartment, that one of his Mollies is missing. And Scully just says, oh, it wasn't as lucky as you. Also, well, way to flippantly refer to your friend's recent death.
Yeah, I think it's a fault of the writing. It's not a fault of the characters. They're not being careful enough with this.
It's possibly a point. Some critics at the time did criticise this whole 3-parter for sidelining Scully. And it's probably a fair point because she's, well, admittedly she's 7 months pregnant, but she's also remarkably inactive in a plot that involves Mulder, the person she loves, so thoroughly. A lot of what we see of her is just her holding his hand. Yeah,
she's basically demoted down to waifu. It's really off.
There is a comparison that Chris Carter made, and he said it was a film he had in mind when writing Scully in these episodes.
Okay.
It's a film from 1955 called Magnificent Obsession. And in that movie, to cut a very long story short, I haven't seen it, I do know of it. It's a film where a former medical student behaves recklessly and blinds a woman. And he feels so guilty about it, he devotes his life to becoming a doctor just to get her vision back. And that's the role that Carter had in mind for Scully while doing it. He was just thinking of this portrayal of this medical student in Magnificent Obsession. You know, of somebody who, essentially in her desperation, her life's devotions become getting Mulder well. And I'm not sure if it's an opposite of Woman in Refrigerators, as woman devotes her entire character development to saving a man.
I was going to say, I don't like that, and I don't think I like it anyway, but I especially don't feel that Mulder has earned this.
Mm.
What has he actually done to deserve that kind of...
Potentially fathered her child.
Potentially. Let's remark there's an enormous asterisk over that child. And the fact that...
I think there's an enormous asterisk now, especially as Krycek is so worried about it.
I was going to say, it's the fact that hasn't been the subject of any debate, is that, Skinner, you probably should mention this to someone, because that's a concern.
Krycek doesn't normally act out of malice. He's normally acting with an agenda, which infers there's something about the child.
Yeah, and aside from maybe being an alien fetus, but we don't know, because that's a few episodes ago. Yeah, it's odd to do that and then ignore it as thoroughly as they are doing.
I'd also possibly mention it to Scully on the basis of Krycek's plan to have Skinner kill the baby has failed. There might be a target on Scully's stomach, essentially.
Yeah, and the fact that apparently he knows she's just wandering around as normal. It's fine. I really don't like Fight the Future being the password, though. It doesn't mean anything to them, does it?
Well, I was wondering when we first saw this episode, it's like, all right, what are the 3 words going to be? And within 10 seconds of the episode, the guy holds up the diskette that says Fight the Future on it.
No,
I think I've got it.
No, a week ago, you were pretty sure the 3 words were something else.
Yeah, my assumption was because Mulder had come back from the dead, and Scully is clearly so in love with him that it was going to be an inference of 3 words being I love you.
Yeah.
Evidently, I romanticised this more than the writers of The X-Files.
You had Scully's shipping mind, because, yeah, I can see that being a lot of expectations. I think I'll come back to Scully shippers. Do you like this episode? Because I doesn't paint them in a good light again. This is like a really bad relationship one.
You kind of want, at this point in the series, it to be something more akin to All Things, a very introspective, personal episode in there.
Yeah, that would be... That's kind... As much as All Things wasn't great for their relationship building, I mean, there's the tail end bit, but there was that nasty fight at the start.
But given, it's not just that they haven't seen each other for 3 months. She's believed he's dead for 3 months. There should be more of a reunion than we get here.
Yeah, it's very shuffled off into the margin.
I would buy this is your reaction back in season 1 or 2 when they weren't as intimate as they are now.
Yeah, it doesn't read right anymore. It's odd.
Especially if you compare it to the reunion with Mulder and Scully after her absence back in season 2 in one breath.
Yes. To return back to the major plot of the episode as well, what was the census worker trying to do?
Get a big list of genetic markers to the president.
Now, here's an interesting point, because I forgot to do this at the start, but I had that whole big spiel about 10 gigabyte hard drives and access to all the data being in this room at the Census Bureau.
Yeah.
What's on that disk?
List.
Cool. Why do you need the 10 gigabyte hard drive? Why do you need the Census Bureau? It fits on a half-size CD.
List.
The episode is fundamentally broken. It's a bit... okay, from a technological sense, I can understand how you made this mistake, but internally it's not even consistent. Because that disk has to be the census data, otherwise what are you giving the president?
Good point.
Otherwise you give him a scrap of paper saying, go to the Census Bureau, use this password, and look at all the records. I don't know what they expect George Bush to do, though.
Would it have been George Bush?
It would have been George Bush. This is 2001. This is just pre 9/11, but George Bush is in the White House.
George Bush Jr. then.
George Bush Jr. is in the White House at this point in time. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't have trusted him with this. The episode premise is broken.
Yeah.
And then Absalom got shot. And should we focus on Absalom? Because we mentioned him about last time, and here he is again.
He's in all three of the episodes, technically.
Is he actually in all three?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Doggett just talked to him. We forgot about that last time, because Doggett talked to him, and suddenly he seemed to believe in aliens. It was really weird. Because then he's all for getting the vaccine to help Mulder. But anyway, Absalom's
I don't think he's necessarily believes in aliens, but he understands that there is this vaccine that can save Mulder.
Fair point.
You can't make the assumption that Doggett's suddenly a believer on that.
You can, but I think you should have some questions about where they're getting this vaccine from. But Absalom in jail, so he sees the thing about the census worker. And we know from that photo that Mulder has that Absalom knew the census worker already, which is why he wanted to escape.
Yeah.
Kind of odd that this whole group of people, including the census worker, didn't come up in the episode with Jeremiah Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And Absalom is still acting like he healed the abductees. It is a very strange writing choice. I don't understand.
I think it kind of makes sense if you look at Absalom's background, to be fair, given that he was a doomsday prophet.
Yeah.
So he likes power and he likes being in control. So therefore, if people are kind of believe you are capable of this, he's going to milk it.
Fair. I had a much more cynical explanation. It originally was Absalom healing them, and Jeremiah Smith was added very late on.
It's a possibility. But I think at the same time it fits Absalom's profile to be the kind of person who would use the situation.
But I'm getting at is how much Jeremiah Smith is just basically now just a void in the episode. No one comments on his abduction. No one asks where he is.
True, but nobody except for Scully saw him either.
Well, they saw him on the videotapes. They have video footage.
Doggett saw him.
Yeah, they have video footage of him, and they don't know where he is. And we don't know what the first-person accounts were of that UFO when they abducted him. Given that's got to be a doozy to experience. But anyway, so Absalom breaks out of prison in a stunning series of convenient coincidences.
Yeah.
Because not only was he working on the road crew, but found a stick with a nail in it, and then ran across some railroad tracks just before a convenient train blocked any pursuit. Then evaded capture to get to Doggett's house. And I don't understand how he knows where Doggett lives. But now he's dead, which is a shame. You know, this concept of pantsing writing. These 3 episodes feel like they were pantsed all the way through. They started with the first one and did not know what 3 words was going to even look like.
To elaborate, if you don't know, pantsing in writing is when you don't create a plan and you just kind of make it up as you go along.
Yeah. I think these 3 episodes have the hallmarks of we have no idea where this is going. We know Mulder's going to be alive and well at the end of it, but we do not know how we're getting there or how any of the characters are going to be used. Also, Jeremiah Smith is here. Now he's gone.
True.
We've got Absalom, and now he's dead.
True. On a positive note for this episode, you have the lone gunman actually doing things that you would consider relevant, because you have complained about this for a while.
I was astonished.
And you are discreetly not mentioning
No, I forgot. You know, excellent point. I would have brought that up if I remembered, but thank you for reminding me. Lone gunman are suddenly doing computer hacking and surveillance stuff. Breaking into facilities. Oh my god. They're not being information sources.
You have complained about this for so long, and you've finally got an episode where they're hacking.
I know. I'm overjoyed. I genuinely think that's great. It's like, yes, I don't understand how you didn't do this for the last few, but yeah, you've actually got them right now. And it's quite nice to see them greeting Mulder and Frohike being the most hands-on hugging Mulder.
Mm.
That's kind of cute.
Everyone else shakes his hand, but Frohike hugs him.
Yep. I would say it feels a bit odd for Scully to refer to them as the gunman, which I'm sure they reference them by name normally, not just as a collective group.
I'm not sure, actually. I've not really noticed.
I don't. The gunman rang false to me when she started saying it. Oh yeah, the gunmen are doing that. The who? Yeah, I know you mean the lone gunman, but that's a weird way of phrasing it. But yeah, it's good to see them do hacking stuff. You do wonder about Mulder's stealth attempt when, he's trying to get into the secure facility. There's a guard right there, and Mulder runs straight at him, and the guy doesn't look up.
I did notice when I was watching the sequence with Absalom and Doggett, that when he makes Doggett show his ID, Doggett's holding his ID upside down. And I wondered if that was intentional or not.
Apparently not.
Well, it could be entirely unintentional, or it could be Doggett trying to signal that something's not right.
Yeah.
And I think you could read either in quite easily.
Well, you'd think most people would be a bit weirded out by the whole, he's presenting ID, there's a guy standing back and just behind him in a way that you would do if you had a gun on him.
Who does not show any ID.
You don't show any ID, it doesn't talk, and the person in front of you looks a bit pained and kind of scared.
Yeah.
This is the least convincing a hostage getting into a place I've ever seen.
I'm also not entirely sure what Absalom was going to do when he got in there, because he doesn't have the disc.
Yeah, and it's not clear if he knew the password. Again, we do come back to, from what we see of the census data, I don't know what you do with it, other than say, these people are alien placements, and most people are going to say, well, they look human to me, and their blood work says they're human. Unless you do genetic tests, we can't tell they're not quite the same as they used to be. What?
I guess from a benefit of, if you know that they're all pod people, you have a comprehensive list of every pod person in the United States, so we can go and round them up later. I mean, you're getting into, this is just a sci-fi thing. This is, like you said, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This is Animorphs.
That too.
There are people in our community that look totally normal, but they're actually aliens and we can't trust them. Yeah.
But I mean, I think I'd go for how Absalom knows what he's doing and what he wants to do with it. I don't understand, given you can't, it's not a revelation you can give to the public and the public will understand what it means. They're going to go, what? The other part of it is the implication in Requiem was this was a rather small group of people localized around UFO hotspots, particularly Oregon, where Billy Miles was.
I can't imagine how big a list it must be to be 10 gigabytes of it.
This is what I'm getting at. It can't be that many people. If it is that many people, the aliens have won.
Yeah.
So either they've won, or that's a small list, and the 10 gigabytes is very confusing. And especially when you claim it's a directory listing. So that's just text. Chris, do you know how much 10 gigabytes of text is? That's absurd.
Maybe they've saved like a really, really big Word document because they've been inefficient and put one name on every page.
I know genetic data can actually ramp up quite fast if you are storing all of the information that you need of it. But that's not what the Census Bureau is going to have.
If they are the Census Bureau.
Yeah. Also, do you get the impression we're just sort of shifting government departments? Because we were fixated with FEMA for a bit, and we've just abandoned FEMA.
We already know that you can't only trust that one doctor in all of the United States.
Yeah, and you can't trust the army, though I thought that was a given at this point.
Are we going to go down all the government fields and eventually it's like, oh yes, the telecoms operatives, you can't trust them. Whoever's at the bottom pile, sanitation workers, no.
Yeah, sanitation workers. I was just saying, telecom operators, you've got information manipulation there. So
all right, yeah. Okay.
I'll give you sanitation. I like sanitation workers, yeah. You can't trust them either.
They did let the host get away.
They did let the host get away. I mean, yeah, conspiracy. Was that guy actually not helping at all? Was he helping it escape at the end? This is becoming a common thing of, let's see what Paula didn't like, given that most people are kind of the whole, yay, Mulder, and she's going, nah, this is rubbish.
Yeah, I do find it interesting, given how many positive reviews The X-Files is still getting at this period, that some of them, like Tom Kesnish and Paula Vitaris in particular, just haven't seemed to like an episode for a while.
I mean, I think there's been a few where we thought she was naturally harsh, like Roadrunners, she didn't feel like she was being entirely fair on. I understand these last three not getting great responses given what they're doing.
It was much like her critiques of Deadalive. She claimed that it was a wasted opportunity of an episode, and she didn't really criticise anyone in particular, but just said they'd kind of completely missed an opportunity for this one to delve into Mulder's psyche and how it must be affecting him. She gave it 1.5 out of 4. Her ratings are always 4. So it's not been one of the ones she's absolutely slammed, but that's still a pretty negative review from her.
Yeah.
In the positive reviews for these 2 episodes, for the record, most of them were just hinged on people who were glad to have Mulder back.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure on original watch, I would have been right there with them of, oh, good, we're out of that weird period, we can get back to the X-Files as it was.
I've got to admit, Mulder has been one of the interesting things for me, because watching this as a teenager, I was so pro Mulder, and it was, feeling like Scully was just trying to trip him up at every stage when you knew Mulder was right.
Yeah.
But watching it as an adult, you really empathise with Scully and Doggett now to a degree, because Mulder is a raving lunatic.
Yes. I mean, Dodcom's always going to be the one for me where, Scully has walked in and he's talking about wormholes.
Mm.
I think it's that problem of, as far as the narrative is concerned, Mulder is always right, with a few rare exceptions.
Yeah.
But it's unearned, I think, is, coming out as an adult, it's the unearned nature of it is the problem.
Mm.
Is he is right. He's just prevented from being right about it because the series needs to keep on going.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else for this episode?
No, I think I'm good, boss.
So, next week... Oh boy, you've been looking forward to this one, haven't you?
Oh, is it Empedocles?
It's Empedocles.
I have been looking forward to Empedocles.
But, to make it slightly more palatable, it's paired with Alone. If you'd like to get hold of us, our address is thingsagainstrange42@gmail.com.
You can also find us on social media, and please do hook me up if you'd like me to present anything at the start of the show for you, including any conventions, fan events, zines, cool bits of art. So long as it's X-Files related, do let me know. You can find us on Twitter and Tumblr at GetStrange42, on Mastodon at GetStrange42@universedon.com, or on Facebook, where you can find us by searching for Things Are Getting Strange and X-Files Rewatch Podcast. Also, if you're not sick of my voice right now, I also stream on Twitch TV. I'm live Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 PM GMT and Saturdays at 5 PM GMT under the name Adverse Camber 42. I am currently streaming Yakuza Kiwami 2 and Alone in the Dark, the 2024 version. I also have an Adverse Camber 42 Twitter and Blue Sky accounts if you want to follow me for updates and any additional streams that are in addition to my regular ones.
We have a Patreon, patreon.com/thingsgettingstrange, where for a little $3 a month you can find our reviews of Goblins, Whirlwind by Charles Grant, and Ground Zero by Kevin J. Anderson, our Let's Play of the first X-Files game, called The X-Files Game with Craig Wilmore from 1998, and our review of Mulder and Scully by Catatonia.
That was interesting.
It was an attempt. An attempt was made. Our theme music is A Vision by Kevin MacLeod. You can find it on Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, please remember...
The truth may hurt, but it's all that matters.